I had just made a movie called Lawless, and found that I really liked that certain kind of energy. There's a certain kind of director, a certain kind of approach, uh, and there's only maybe 20 of these guys in the world, and 5 at the tippy top of the mountain. Lars being at the tippy top of the mountain, and so I didn't. I knew that he was making a movie. You always hear about things like that. You know who your favorite guys are and what they're doing, but I didn't know specifically what it was. I know that it's a big stretch as a fan of Lars to know, being an actor, a male, there's not a whole lot of opportunity in Lars's films for men. It's actually the opposite, and he's one of the only guys like that. So it wasn't even on my list of dreams. It was one of those things that's so way out there, you don't even dream about it. And then literally, I mean, it's a statistic, I guess, but I just got a call from my agent saying there may be an opportunity here in this Lars von Trier movie, and I already knew what it was, and I said, yeah, anything, man, any role, whatever. That was my response to my agent. I didn't know what the role was yet, and then we started getting info, and the first info we got, and I'll never forget this, because my entire team reacted with such a fear. The first request on the production end, not from Lars, but from production, was pictures of my penis. You should ask everybody where they were in their lives when they read it too, because I think it's indicative of whatever the response is. But for me, it was majorly powerful. Hearing stuff about lust plus jealousy equals love was probably the most definitive description of love up to that point in my life I'd ever really heard. Just the easiest, simplest, most matter-of-fact way, and it connected with me, and that scared the shit out of me. There was a lot of things in Joe's character that really struck me, like it'll strike most people. It's not... I know it's a very specific character, but the themes are quite generalized, and for me it just hit me quite hard. And I'd been looking for an adversarial role. Previously in my life, for my career, I'm always the everyman, or the guy who's like the normal guy stuck in this extraordinary situation that he's got to deal with. And Jerome was an opportunity to play sort of a, slimy, evil fucking, blasphemous mini juggernaut of a man kind of thing. It was like, like Alec Baldwin in Glengarry. When he comes in, he's a tight... Every scene that I had read with Jerome were powerful. All the scenes were really visceral, dealing with heavy. And, there's a translation thing, too, because he doesn't write in English. It's got to be translated. And so there's things that get lost in translation, jokes that didn't make sense to me when I read them, where on the day, situationally, it all works. I don't think I understood all of it. I had no idea about the numbers, the numerology, the golden angles, and all this shit. I had no idea. But a lot of it struck me. Now, having just watched the movie, all of it clicks hard, but at the time, none of it made sense. But I trusted Lars implicitly because his worst shit is better than my best dreams of my best shit. And if you can find a guy who you can implicitly trust, then you're very fortunate in the actor seat, Jerome has found an equal in Joe in a wild way, He's as far away from love as she is, for different reasons. And he's a very insecure man. He's a very vain man. And he's a very small man. Not physically, but small in terms of his ability to empathize with others. And, he's very small-minded, narrow, selfish. The way into the character is, you ask yourself, what about you is pugnacious? What about you is vain? You just turn it all up. You just amplify all of it. So I became quite physical. It became like American Psycho. It became that without the killing. In my head, he was, a lot of tip to Christian Bale in that movie, because a lot of Jerome in my mind was that same kind of neurosis and self-centeredness as a Wall Street broker or something like that, you know. And he had this murky crime backstory history that we never really got into, which opened up a whole Pandora's box for me and my, you know, personal thoughts on the character. This is a dude who was living under the shadow of many men, bureaucrats, and was pushed into a bureaucratic position without any skills that way, you know, had no concept of love early on. You know, the guy has no concept of love. His idea of love is Joe's idea of love, this lust plus jealousy shit, you know, which is just a shadow of actual love, you know. And I don't think he ever really learns it, nor does she. They just, in the end, I mean, when you see the movie, it's not all wrapped up in a bow, you know. They never really find it. He was on my list of the greats, you know, list of 5 maybe. He's our Tarkovsky. He's the guy, you know. He's and super humble, like can't take a compliment or anything, you know. It's a really wild dichotomy. I feel like if he was super Christian, he'd be like, "Thanks, man. Thanks, I appreciate it." But he's just not that guy. I guess the reputation would be that of a rebel or like a fucking bank robber. He's like Billy the Kid in the director's community. You know, he's the one guy who can get away with whatever he wants because it's good. You know, there's this list of rules that you have to make a movie, and he never follows them. You know, he's one of the only dudes who's actually inventing things. He's an inventor. I just expected more information, more input, more direction. I just expected a lot of directing. And I just ran into a collaborator who respected my opinion. Somebody had shown him the Sigur Rós video. And, you know, there's only 2 minutes of footage. And I remember he didn't want to watch any movies while he was getting ready to go, even if it meant, you know, studying an actor's work. And then I offered an audition. He didn't want to do that either because because he was respecting me. It was a very strange, like, middle ground. So he asked Anders, and Anders was like, "Yeah, kid's really good," because I had met his son for that kickboxing film that he did, Only God Forgives. And so inadvertently through Refn and Anders, they basically got me a job with Lars because they co-signed the Sigur Rós thing. So basically his producer brought him Sigur Rós. He watches it. He goes, "Yeah. Anders, what do you think?" And Anders goes, "My son just met him. Pretty cool." And Lars goes, "All right, well, send him the letter." And the letter was, you know, "Are you game?" And so I guess the first test was, let's time how long it takes for this motherfucker to send his dick over the internet, you know. And it was like 20 minutes, you know. So they were like, "All right, kid's ready."